All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Tuesday Notary Titans after a 2-week hiatus or break. And of course, my dogs are about to start barking right on cue, the delivery guys here. My name is Bill Soroka. I am the founder of notarycoach.com and author of Sign and Thrive, How to Make Six Figures as a Mobile Notary and Loan Signing Agent. Laura, want to introduce yourself?
Sure, Bill. Thanks. It's so good to be back. It felt like more than 2 weeks. I'm Laura Biewer. I'm the founder of Coach Me Laura. I provide state-specific training to notaries across the United States so that they feel confident and competent around their notarization skills. I'm also the founder of Notary Symposium, which is an annual event for notaries by notaries. And welcome all today.
All right, guys, Tuesday Notary Titans is the time for you to get your questions answered live on the call by both Laura and I. Plus, the chat lights up with different perspective and resources. Plus, it's a great way to connect with other notaries around the country. So use this. You can send private messages. You can ask for connections. You can ask for different resources in that chat window as well. We're going to try to get to as many questions as possible today and also deliver high quality, high value content or solutions for you as well. The best way to do this is to use the raise hand feature on Zoom. We are going to call on you. And before you just jump into your question, tell us what state you're in. That's really helpful for us. And then get right to your question. If we need some backup information or a little more story, we'll ask you some questions to help us get there and give you the best answer. But in the interest of saving time and helping as many people as possible today, let's get right to the question. Laura, are you ready? All right, she's muted and ready.
Of course.
Love it. All right, I saw some hands up already nice and early. We only have 3 hands up, guys. So if you do have some questions, find that raise hand button under the reactions tab or wherever else it might be hidden on Zoom. And we'll be sure to get to your questions. Yolanda Anderson, now that we have your microphone working, would you like to unmute and ask your question? And tell us what state you're in. Yolanda Anderson.
Hi, Bill. Can you hear me?
Yeah, sure can.
Okay, happy New Year, everyone. Just have a quick question here for Bill or for Laura. I've been doing a few signings, and my question is this. If I want to incorporate multiple signings in a day, what is the best way to do that? Because being fairly new, I know it's taking a long time just to barely do one, but when I get the swing of things, because if the documents are late, if you don't get the documents and you've already accepted 3 signings, how do you juggle all of that? Or what is the best way to schedule, especially keeping in mind that you may not get the documents in time and you may have to drive a half hour, 45 minutes to get to your next signing. What is the best way? What is the process?
Yeah, what a great question and what a great problem to have, right?
Yeah.
I know both Laura and I have our own systems for this. Laura, I'd like to bounce it over to you and talk about how you manage the logistics of your day.
So I think the things that you mentioned, Yolanda, is going to plague all NSAs because we are dependent upon receiving the call or the offer in the first place. And then upon the execution of that assignment, meaning they get the documents to us, all of that. So one thing is when you receive a call, an offer, be sure you vetted that call so that you know if it fits in the day as your day looks at that moment, right? Because that's what you do know. You really can't handle all of the things that are out of your control, but you know what your day looks like at that moment. So be sure to vet the call in terms of, what kind of job it is, because that could be a 30-minute job or an hour job. How far away you're going to have to drive. So where's the location of that assignment? Is there any work you need to do after the fact? Meaning, do you have to scan back documents before you can drop it to a FedEx? And most importantly, are the docs ready? I always ask that in the call. Do you already have the documents? So I know, oh yeah, we've got them. We're going to send them right to you. Okay, that's a solid call right there. And if it meets my requirements and I have time in my schedule for the time assigned, beautiful. I'm going to accept that job. And if it doesn't, then that might be a job I have to pass on. If the only issue is the docs aren't ready yet, I let them know that's fine. I can book this time. However, I need those documents by X time in order for me to have time to print, to prep, to drive to the assignment, so that they know right up front that if that doesn't happen, there's a good chance they may not have a notary to take care of it, and they'll do a last minute replacement. So that really comes from valuing your own time so that you don't become a victim of whatever comes your way. So that's probably my biggest thing. And then the second thing is, when you are in the job, be efficient with it. Make sure that if there's things that you could do before you leave the assignment, such as checking the documents, such as when you get in the car, doing a completion, which is just getting on their portal and completing and putting in the shipping number so that you don't have to touch that order again. It just has to be dropped. I think those are two of the biggest things that you can do proactively to take a little control of that. Bill, what do you got to add?
Yeah, I love your points, especially your proactivity on that. Here's what I'll piggyback on first, is creating a system. So, and Yolanda, this is not necessarily something that's just going to be right out of the gates. You're going to know how to systemize. You're not going to know how your flow is. You'll get better at this.
Right.
But the sooner that you can systemize your signings and button them up, like, don't leave things lingering. It's the lingering appointments that will bite you in the rear end at some point. When you're done with an appointment, be done with an appointment. Maybe it has to be dropped off at FedEx, but you're going to have 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 of those later on down the road anyway. But you want the invoicing done. You want communication, all of that done the same time, every time, for every appointment. I do the same things before, during, and after an appointment. Anything I can control, I'm controlling. Now that leaves a lot still up in the air, right? Because we're working with other people. There's the documents and all of those. But anything I can systemize, I'm going to systemize that. Now, the other huge thing is I schedule. I'm very proactive in how I schedule my appointments, and I'm thinking ahead all the time. I usually have 2 to 3 hours booked in between appointments, just in case. So I don't work 8 to 5. I don't have rules about my hours. I'm going to take care of my customers, whatever that's going to take. So I'll build in a little bit of cushion. I always build in a cushion. And when you build in cushion, you don't need cushion all the time. So a lot of times your schedule will fluctuate. So I think things through about traffic. I'm thinking rush hour. I'm thinking things that are going on in my city. I'm thinking construction. And I build my schedule around that. Still, that's just what I know. There's always contingencies. There's always something that's going to come up and jam things up. So the key to this whole thing is to be adaptable. Know that things are going to change. Things are going to go wrong. Things aren't going to go according to your plan, and don't take it personal. There's only so much you can control. So if documents don't come, there's nothing you can do about that. You don't have to get mad at the signing company. You don't have to make anybody wrong for that. It just is what it is. That's a bummer. If I can find a way to make it work for the customer, if I can come later, if we can swing by and pick up documents somewhere, I'm willing to do those things if it works. And if it doesn't, I don't have to own that. A lot of times we kind of shame ourselves, and it comes out as anger at somebody else because we weren't able to do what we wanted to do. We couldn't service the customer, and then they're upset, and we take that personally. If you can start releasing that, and then just be adaptable to whatever the situation is, do what you can when you can with what you got, you'll enjoy this business a lot better.
Okay, and then another question regarding the dropping of the documents. Say if I do accept, say, 3 signings on a particular day, do you personally wait until you've completed, say, that 3rd signing before you will go drop the documents? Because I know a lot of times they're saying, well, we want them scanned back immediately after the signing and then dropping. How do you handle those situations if you have multiple signings in one day? Do you wait till the ink to drop, to scan? How do you do that?
So if you're going to do that, every signing has its own direction. So you can't apply a blanket statement to this. You can't apply a blanket statement across the board. So if they say we need scan backs right there at the table, then you do scan backs right there at the table. You know, that's part of the integrity. You got to stick with it. If you have a little bit of flexibility, like Laura said, you can be really proactive with this. When do they need documents back? I'll make a note right there. They don't need that. This isn't funding for 3 days, so they don't even need me to drop them off right away. I always do. Like, you never stick documents in the back seat, because that will bite you too. Laura, you want to share your system while I take care of these dogs?
Sure. So Yolanda, the other thing that that even though you can't have a blanket statement, there is one blanket statement I can make, and that is you need to make your drop times. So if your last appointment is not going to allow you to hit the last possible time to drop that package so it goes out that same day, then you need to drop off those first two before you hit the next assignment.
Gotcha.
So, all right. So sometimes you can get them all done, but sometimes that last assignment just isn't going to make it. So drop the other two off first, then you can take care of the other one, and you don't have to be worried about, oh my God, I'm not going to make it.
Got you. Okay, I appreciate that.
All right. You are so welcome.
I'll piggyback on that really quick too, because I build drop-offs into my logistics. I don't want to keep documents 1 minute longer than I have to. I don't want to have to worry about them being in my car. I don't want to worry about that security. I don't want to worry about being responsible for somebody's loan not funding. I don't want to do any of that. So I'll build in drop-offs, whether it's at a title office, because I work escrow direct now. So I'll build that in, or swing by a FedEx and drop it off, especially now that the holidays are over. You're not standing in line waiting for FedEx and UPS.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you.
You're so welcome. Thanks for being here.
There's one more thing, is that more and more on confirmations, what I am seeing is, don't put it at a drop box. Make sure you give it to a person.
Right.
So consider that as well.
Okay.
All right. Now that all deliveries in the possible universe have been dropped at my front door, we'll carry on to Diana. Diana, thank you so much for being here. What state are you in, and how can we help?
Can you hear me?
You sound really far away, and you're on mute now.
Now, can you hear me?
Yeah, so much better.
Okay, good. I wanted to circle back to oaths again, because, you know, I've been doing them in a title office, and sometimes they're feeling really unnecessary, or at least some of the people participating make me feel like they're really unnecessary. And, you know, I went back and looked at your module on that, and that module has wording that's, I guess not all oaths are created equal. So you've got an oath in there that's very specific to loan papers, and you say it at the beginning, and you're just saying, you're signing all these documents, and do you swear or affirm? And then an oath would be different in other circumstances, not loan signings. In a title office, they don't seem to swear any oaths at all. I did ask one person who was in the office from another state, who's, you know, been in title for 30 years. And I was asking her, you know, I understand that everyone's in a hurry, and nobody's really, particularly if it's new homes, there's not a lot of crazy possible fraud going on. So they kind of just skip the oaths altogether. And I was asking her about her oath. Hers is a little different from yours. She tends to give an oath at the end rather than beginning, because she said, how can people give an oath to these papers that some of them, they've not even seen any of them? I don't know. I'm just feeling confused about the whole thing.
So yeah, Diana, I think this is a great question. So really what this comes down to is, you are trying to be in integrity as a notary public, delivering an oath on jurats or oath, notarial acts of oaths where it's required, and you're getting pushback from the people who hire you because nobody else does it.
Right. And then not even them so much more as attorneys. Attorneys really turn up their nose about it.
Yeah. So
and I'm like, dude, I'm just doing my job.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. I'm going to let Laura talk about this, but this is something that you will run into everywhere. No, I don't want to say no one, because we have an amazing, the bar has been raised in this industry. There's a lot more notaries now delivering oaths on jurats, but before, I mean, it's just unheard of. Escrow officers still laugh at me. My clients laugh at me whenever I have them raise their hand and deliver an oath. That's pretty common, but I want Laura to talk about the oath and the importance of it.
Thanks, Bill. And what a great question in two ways. One is what I heard was they make you feel like it's unnecessary, and because of the way their body language or their words are, you're picking up, you're taking on this feeling of, oh, I'm just wasting their time. And so the first thing I want to say to everybody is, what you do is important. All the aspects of what you do are equally important. And an oath, in terms of an oath upon verification or a jurat, is required by law for us to do. What I do is I introduce, the first time I have to administer an oath, I introduce the significance of that before I actually give the oath, so that they understand when they're raising their hand, if they lie to me, it's like they're in court. This is serious business. And I take my job seriously. And typically, when they understand, because I've communicated to them my perspective of my obligation, I don't get any more pushback from anybody. And they, although they don't have to raise their hand, that's the ritual I happen to use. They are more than willing to do so. And I think it comes from us first, because so many notaries did not follow through and take care of that kind of business before, or made very light of it. And for those of us who do take our job seriously and understand our requirements, we're getting some of that feedback, right? So I just want you to know that when you may get that feedback, just because we talk today doesn't mean that's going to go away. But what can go away is any feelings of needing to own that, because that's them, not you. Own your own stuff, right? My stuff is, I know this is serious. I know it's required and it's part of my job. And it really doesn't matter what they think about it. What matters is, are they willing to participate in it? Because if they're not, it's going to halt my ability to move forward. And I think we have to, kind of reclaim our power in that. So that's what I think about that. And the other thing is, there are many kinds of oaths. There's an oath before testimony, which is very different. There's an oath of office, which is going to be very different. There are oaths related to loan documents, which are going to be different. So one oath doesn't fit all necessarily. When you're doing loan signings, it's pretty much what Bill has, or what I do is pretty much the same all the time. But if you expand your business beyond loan signings, you're going to find many different oaths that come up. So I hope that was helpful.
Yeah, I have one additional question in regard to this. So I've been working in a title company for a builder. So there's multiple documents in there that need notarization. The person who's signing them, I know who she is, but they're telling me, she's not going to take an oath every time, she needs to sign one of these documents. So I have to not do that for this internal person. I do it for signers. I don't do it for the internal person, as long as I know who she is and that she's there. Because there's a couple, I guess there's one jurat in there. There's the title covenant and warranty that she signs off on all the time. That should require an oath, but she's signing 5-6 of them a day.
So Diana, just because you know her and just because it's a repetitive document doesn't take away your responsibility of executing your duties as a notary. That's the bottom line. And it doesn't have to be a big deal. She signs off. Do you swear it's true? Yes, thank you very much. I mean, you move on. It's not a big deal. And it doesn't have anything to do with, her. She's there all the time. She signs the same document all the time. Every document, every time is a different house. It's a different situation. It's a different day. So, if it were me, I would address it as minimally as possible, since it is that situation, but I would not let it go.
I did ask a high up person who was in the office about it. I said, you know, this is a jurat, this requires an oath. I understand that she works here, she's an employee, and you don't want to have to ask her to do an oath every day. And the woman said, right, she said, we don't do that in the title office because we would have to hire a different notary if they wanted to do an oath each time. So I get your message, like, keep it maybe between her and I, keep it.
You muted yourself, Diana.
Yeah, and Diana, you know, again, you're getting information. Think about where your source of information is coming from. They don't hold the commission. You do. This is your responsibility, not theirs. And yes, I would minimalize, meaning not making a big deal about it, so it just gets done. But in the end, Diana, it doesn't matter who's telling you what. You have to make a decision for yourself, what you're going to do. There's really nothing more we could share about that. It really comes down to your decision on what you believe is going to be the right thing to do as a notary.
I'm curious what Bill does when he's in the title companies all the time and when he was doing it.
Diana, I left you a voicemail. You asked this question in the SpeakPipe voicemail, and I addressed this. This is, you know, what you can't get from Laura, me, or anybody else on this call is permission to do something outside the bounds of your commission. That's never going to happen. You're never going to get anybody who says, oh yeah, you have my permission to do that, because nobody wants the liability for that. And that's one thing you'll learn in this business. As soon as you ask a question of an escrow officer, you get lots of no's sometimes, because as soon as they know about something, they don't want the responsibility. So there's all these no's. And that's why it's so important for you guys to know what you can and cannot do. And sometimes you have to interpret things. You have to do your due diligence. Like Laura and I were just talking about this. You have to get into it. What's the intent of the law? What does the law literally say about this? What are they trying to accomplish? And sometimes you have to make your own decisions about that. So in your particular case, and Diana, I know the builder you're talking about because I work with them as well. I tell them, and you're in an office full of notaries public, sorry.
Actually not. That's part of the problem. That's part of the problem. They relied on them. And I think some of the people that do have it don't know their laws.
Again, so here's the thing. You can only control you. So I tell them, like, I can't notarize a document if I don't witness the signature and deliver the oath. This is a jurat. So it gets taken care of somewhere down the line. I don't know what happens. I don't know if there's another, all those escrow officers are notaries as well. So they take care of it, but I am not putting my commission on the line to do something I shouldn't do. And when you're working that close with somebody, I get we all make allowances based on the tolerance, our risk tolerance, right? But that's not a decision that anybody else can help you make. You have to decide for yourself on that. Knowing you have to know what you can and you cannot do.
Okay.
So that's not as black and white as I think you were hoping. It's super gray, but I hope it was helpful.
It's still where it is. So I just have to do what I feel like I need to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And like Laura was saying, is you don't want to make a big deal out of it, right? You don't want to be the person who's just stubbornly digging in their heels and not going to do anything. I have fun with it. And if your client respects integrity at all, in this particular situation, Diana, this is when things go wrong. This is how people slip a signature in and it gets notarized because people just skip the rules. And then down the road, we're like, we just deeded this house to this person that should not have received this house. And the notary inadvertently just notarized as normal without the person even knowing it. And it causes problems. It's a really slippery slope. So it's better to stand your ground, but do it in a way that provides a solution. Hey, I can't do this because it jeopardizes my commission. Is there any way that somebody else in your office can handle that particular form, or whatever it is? Have fun or have a solution part of it too. So you're not just the stick in the mud trying to jam things up.
Yeah. Right. To be continued.
Yeah.
So I think we're ready.
All right. Thank you, Diana. Martina B, thank you so much for being here. Would you like to unmute, tell everybody what state you're in and how we can help? Martina B.
Hi, I'm in Arizona. Give me 1 second. Okay. Okay. So my question is that
Martina,
I
are you
have been
whispering?
trying to- Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Are you shuffling papers?
No, I'm actually no, I've actually walked away. Can you hear me now?
No, you sound like you're whispering or really far away.
Oh,
Can
okay.
you speak up or
All right. Can you hear me now?
barely?
Hang on 1 second. But what about now? Is this closer or?
Oh, that's way better. Yeah.
Okay, so what I'm trying to find out is that I'm here in Arizona and I have trying to complete the application for the Secretary of State for the RON technology requirements. And I have not been able to locate the technology requirements per the list of vendors. And so I was wondering if I could get some direction as to how I could find the technology requirements so that I can complete the application and submit it to the Secretary of State, please.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple. I don't know exactly what you're referring to, but there is. So they require you to list which technology and the type of technology you're going to be using.
Yes.
So if you've made a solution, if you've made a choice on which platform you're going to be using, they will provide you that information. If you are just looking for the general specifications, Arizona specifically lists those in the remote online notary statute. But they're going to want something more because they want to know what platform you're on and what technology they're using.
Right. And so I have been reaching out to some of the vendors to acquire the technology that they're using. So is that what so that's the part I guess I'm trying to just make sure that I'm doing the correct thing as to reach out, because I'm on their site and I don't see the information or maybe I'm just not clear on what I'm looking for.
Yes. So that is absolutely. So some of the sites are very clear on they'll list their technology, but sometimes it's the double-edged sword or a catch-22 because they want you to register for their platform, but you can't register for their platform until you've got your
exactly
commission on there. I can tell you
Yes.
that the platform that I use just sent it over to me and I was able to register with that.
Okay.
So have you made a choice? Let's just say, have you made a choice?
Well, I was just gonna pick the first one, but they're not in Arizona. I think it was notarized and they're not an approved vendor yet.
Let's start there. Don't just choose the first one. I would get dialed in with a community of remote online notaries. And the other thing that you want to recognize first, let's just talk about Arizona right now, Martina, is
Okay.
right now, it's really difficult to do anything via RON in Arizona. They until the law changes, which I think it goes into effect in July, you are not able to charge anything above and beyond the $10.
Okay.
As
But
the notary. So and your
Okay.
fees for the platform are going to be over $10. So you might want to hold off. So a
I see.
starting point might be with John Holder over at Ron University, which is just ronuniversity.com. And he
Okay.
has interviews and demos of all the different platforms. So you can kind of get familiar with what it is. And I really probably wouldn't move forward until you either July comes around and some of the changes are in place. I'm thinking it's July 2022. Or there's platforms like Cyberize It, where they've found a workaround for that too. They might be able to help you out there too.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Bill, because I was trying to, because everyone's like, oh, well, you need to get ahead of it and beat the rush. And if they make any changes, da 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 da. And I'm like, okay. So thank you for that. And then one other quick question while I have you is with the new notaries, how because some of the platforms want you to have 100 signings for the loan signing agent. Let me be clear. Loan signing agents want you to have 50 to 100 signings. So that's why I was trying to figure out the RON so that I could get that part under my belt, because that's been a challenge for a lot of new notaries, is to get the 50 to the 100 signings to required by the preferred lender or the preferred title company or escrow companies or signing companies. Mhm.
Martina, I think what you're asking, just to, and you tell me if I'm understanding you correctly, is you're looking for a way to circumvent or to meet or get the experience required that a lot of these signing companies or title companies might require upfront.
Yes.
Okay. Great question. And what we found is even though there are some companies that are super strict, they're like, nope, it's 1 year experience or it's 100 signings or 200 signings. There's really no way to track that unless they're only using SnapDocs data anyway. For every company that has a strict rule like that, there's a dozen that do not. So don't let that hold you up. There are hundreds of signing companies across the country that are willing to work with you if you have the right personality, the right commitment to expertise, the professionalism, all of that. And right now, it's the grit and the courage to get out and start forming relationships. It's not about just signing up and forgetting about it. It's building relationships. Laura, what else do you have to say on that?
I don't have a whole lot to say about Ron in terms of what's going on in Arizona and some other states as well, where they've made it, their statutes have made it difficult to really enter into that game yet, because you're going to be upside down. So why would you want to spend your time there? Number one. Number two, I agree with what Bill said, which is to start getting out there to do the business. Don't worry about the RON right now. You want to start working on signings. And there's a couple paths that are open to you as a newer notary. And of course, having a listing, Carrie Rivera has a listing of a lot of title and signing companies. They all have different requirements, but they're in one place. They're rated by other signing agents, up to 5 stars. And you could start there and start reaching out to find out if they're accepting new notaries right now, and what would it take to work for them? What do they need from you? And get that going so that you have multiple opportunities to get assignments, right? You don't want to just sign up with one and think, okay, that's it. You need multiple. Carrie, it's notaryreviews.org. Notary reviews plural.org. There is a nominal membership fee to get in there, but the information in there is invaluable. So I'd recommend that.
Great suggestions.
And then I have a question for you, Bill.
Yeah.
May we take a quick intermission with an announcement from Matt before?
Yes, I just messaged him.
Oh, good.
Yeah, he's ready. In fact, Martina kind of set us up for the spike on this one. Please do. Please introduce him. So
guys, you have seen Matt on TNT for years now, and you know that he's an advocate for notaries. And he's out of the state of California, which of course has some news going on regarding Ron. So Matt, would you share with us what's happening?
Thanks, Laura. Thanks, Bill. Thanks, everyone. Again, my name is Matt Miller with the California League of Independent Notaries, and I'm here today because I want to let California notaries know that we have an active remote online notaries public bill here in California. It is called AB 1093, and it has some really good language, some really good provisions for notaries, including very strict data privacy protections for both the notary's journal, the signer's contents of documents, and their personal data collected. Platforms will be forbidden from using, sharing, selling that data in any way other than by way of a court order or by written request. Also, it will create a brand new notarial act for California notaries, and that will be to be able to certify a tangible copy of an electronic record. We think there's going to be a large demand for that, as this bill also instructs clerks and judges and that sort of thing to accept tangible copies of electronic records as prima facie evidence. Also, it will introduce something that no other state has done before, which would be jurisdictional protections for California notaries and California residents. So if you're in California, if your feet are physically located in California, the signer, that is, at the time of notarization, then you'll be serviced by a California notary, whether that's in person or online or otherwise. And this bill also introduces a new provision that's never been introduced before, which is a private right of action clause, meaning you or any member of the public, if you find out or someone knows that the platform has violated any provision of the bill, will be able to sue the platform. Our Attorney General's office thinks that's required to make sure that they say, well, we're not going to do something, but they do it anyway, and make sure that doesn't happen. So the reason I'm here today is because we have a hearing coming up for this bill on the 13th of January. I know this is all happening very fast, but that tends to happen sometimes in the legislature. Your letters of intent or position letters, as they're called, are due by midnight this Wednesday, January 5th. And I have posted instructions on how to do that on the League's website at calnotaries.org. You're definitely going to want to make sure to get your letter in by midnight Wednesday. There's a letter positions portal where you submit it. And also, those that are interested will be able to make in-person testimony. Probably going to be on the phone. I just talked to a staffer today, and with Omicron, they don't know if they're going to have an open forum. So we'll either be able to do it on the Capitol steps or by way of a telephone if you want to give live testimony in favor or in opposition of the bill as well. But please reach out to me with any kind of questions you have. Oh, I had a Clubhouse info briefing on Sunday that was pretty good. A lot of people asked a lot of really good questions, and we covered a lot of great information. I urge you all to listen to the replay. You can also find a link to that on the Cal Notary's website under the articles section. It is marked replay AB 1093, and I urge you to listen to that and get your position letters in. Thanks, folks. Appreciate the time. I'm hoping that we can get something off the ground here in California. This would certainly set the new benchmark in RON. There are provisions in here that I and others have been fighting for 3 or 4 years at least, and we have a real shot to make history together. So, looking forward to working with all of you on this journey. Thanks, guys.
Awesome.
Thanks,
Thank you, Matt.
There was one question in the chat that, Matt, while you're here, I would like to address, because I think it's very easy to misunderstand. And Jennifer out of Washington asked, does that mean out-of-state RON notaries can't service any documents if the signers live in California?
Right. So let me clarify that. So this really has nothing to do with documents or residency. This is if when you're signing a document that's being notarized, your feet are in California, you're physically located in the state of California at the time of notarization, then you will have to be serviced by a California notary public.
Thank you, Matt. Okay.
All right. That was awesome. Thank you, Matt. Turn on my camera again.
We're ready for Michelle.
Yeah, let's go to Michelle. Michelle Allen Santos, thank you so much for being here. If you'd like to unmute, tell us what state you're in and how we can help.
Thank you so much. I am in Illinois. And my question is, I have several signing services that have started using this thing called Deluxe Payment Center. And I know from some of the past episodes that I've watched, you all know a lot of the signing companies, owners. And I was wondering if that's a trend that you see happening with them using this particular platform, because they send out e-checks, or you can have it direct deposited, but then they charge you if it's direct deposited. And my current bank where I have my business account does not accept e-checks. So, and the only other option that I had that they told me was to start another bank account. So I know I can look at these services and say, okay, I won't work with those particular ones, but it seems like the last 3 at least that I've worked with are using this platform.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say it was a trend. Laura, have you noticed a trend, would you say?
I wouldn't say a trend, but I do have 4 or 5 that
Yeah.
utilize that. And so I don't take the checks into the bank. I use the phone, I use the app, and I don't have any issues when I use the app where, it's taking a picture of the front and the back.
Okay.
She prints her check and then uses the app to deposit, which is a great option. And then do they charge you to actually physically mail the check? I noticed that was an option as well.
No, you can have it mailed or you can print it. But if you want any of the other options, you start losing, a percentage of your check.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So
okay. My bank doesn't take it at all. So it doesn't take e-checks at all. It doesn't matter if I take a picture of it or not,
so even the
unfortunately.
app.
So I guess that's just a decision, I have to make about that.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks for bringing that up. That's a bummer. That's a tough one, but what a great example of a business decision that you might have to make.
Right.
And it's out of your control. There's not a whole lot you can do about it.
Correct.
Yeah. The only other thing that I can think of there, though, Michelle, is if you can have it physically mailed, which the one company that does that for me, they allow me to request a physical check. And I've never done that because I don't have the problem that you're having. But if they can do that for free and you don't mind waiting another 7 to 10 business days, that might be a workaround for you. And then it's not an e-check. It'll come as a physical check.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
I'll try that as well. Thank you.
Rosalind Smith, thank you so much. What state are you in and how can we help?
Hello, I'm in the state of Missouri.
All right.
And I kind of have a unique situation and wanted to get some suggestions from you both. By the way, I am reading your Supercharge Your Notary Business.
Awesome.
And it's been very helpful to update my LinkedIn profile. Basically, long story short is I resigned my 23-year HR career, so I'm switching everything over, and the book helped guide me through all that. So thanks for putting that together.
You bet.
Along with that, I kind of have a unique situation in which I first became a notary through this company in 1998, and I only did general notary work for the employees. I renewed in 2007. And I just renewed to start a business in 2021. So what are your thoughts on how I present that? Like my past experience, but I have significant gaps as a notary.
Yeah, great question. Well, tell me a little more. How would you present that? Like, where are you planning to present this information?
Well, I do have, again, I've updated my LinkedIn. I have a website. Things of that nature, and just trying to understand how to, or should I even present that? I'm also newly trained, and I have never done this side before of loan signing. So just trying to figure out how I present myself.
I love that. So for me, I would take all the accumulated years of my experience and I would bundle that, because nobody cares what your resume is in this business. Nobody's going to go back and say, I noticed a gap from 2007 to 2017. Like the people that would notice that and call you out on that are not who you'd want as your ideal customer anyway. So I would kind of bundle it up and say, hey, I've got 13 years as a mobile notary in this community. I'm committed to Focus on your passion and your personality. Always focus on your strengths and what you're committed to, the experience you're committed to providing to your customers. Most people in the general public, especially, they give us a lot more credibility than maybe even some of us deserve sometimes, right? They just like, oh, she's a notary, she can help me. And that's what they're looking for. Your personality and your passion for what you're doing is going to mean a lot more than your years of experience on paper. Laura, do you have anything that you would add to that?
I'd say big ditto.
Big ditto.
Okay. Well, thank you.
All right.
Yes, it is. Thank
You're
you.
welcome. Yeah, thanks for being here. I'm so glad that you're jumping on to LinkedIn. If you haven't bought into LinkedIn, guys, just even with the book or some of the videos that we published with Sandra Long, you will find some of your most ideal customers. There are so many great stories of connections being made through builders, title companies, realtors, lenders, because a notary has optimized their profile and they look professional. All right, Debbie H., thank you so much for being here. You want to unmute and tell us what state you're in and how we can help?
Hi, this is Debbie, and I'm in Illinois, and I am literally a brand new notary. Like, I just got my commission and my stamp last week. I did get certified for a loan signing agent through the NNA. And so I'm just trying to do as much research and reading and everything as I can before I really get going. But my question is, the whole printer situation. I do have a printer, and I want to make sure that I can print loan docs without any issues, because that seems to be a big problem at the start. Is there some place I can download some loan documentations paperwork to just see if my printer really works?
Yeah, great question. I'm so glad that you're being so proactive and preemptive in that. So I'm sure there's probably some free options out there too. If you want some free options in Sign and Thrive, I offer a free 7-day trial. So you can just pop in and get what you need and pop out. I don't take that stuff personally, guys. There's over 300 training modules in there, Debbie. If you want to hang around a little bit and learn about my process and my systems, that's great. But inside the document vault, inside in the course, I have about a dozen different test loan packages, and they're all letter and legal size documents. So you can download them and use them to practice, and then use them to actually practice your loan signings, your scripts, and your processes as well.
Oh, that's great. Thank you so much, Bill. I really appreciate it. I will visit.
My pleasure. Welcome to the biz.
Thank you.
Laura, did you have any other resources when you hear questions like this?
No, I did hear the question, and no, I don't. I love your suggestion, probably the best. But another, I have a file, and the file has like 2 legal, 2 letter papers on it that just say test. If you're just trying to test that your printer will automatically go back and forth between the 2, and I'm happy to share that to you. All you have to do is email me at Biewer, my last name, at sbcglobal.net. And that would be a way to just test that the functionality of your printer is working. But what I really love is the extra step you could take with Bill, which is actually make use of those documents that he has when you print them.
Yes. No, that sounds great. Thank you both so much. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
You got it. Thanks, Debbie. All right. Hey, Laura, just so you know, my computer's starting to do that wonky thing. So if I get kicked out, you can take over. But right now I can still see everything.
Okay.
Amanda, thank you so much for being here. I see you're in California. I see you're a newbie. You want to unmute and tell us how we can help?
Hi. So I haven't got my commission or anything yet, but I'm just still on the road to mapping things out. And my question is centered more on E&O insurance. In the beginning, because I do plan to work direct with escrow companies, is it really necessary to have a really high policy in the first few months? Or is it something that maybe I just start off with more of a, let's say 100K versus 1 million, and then somewhere down the line, 6 months or 8 months from now, upgrade my insurance? How is that? Or if you're even allowed to do that?
So yeah, first of all, you can change around E&O insurance. It's whatever value is left in it, you would get refunded what wasn't used. So that's the first thing. So the second thing is what the industry generally expects is 100,000 E&O, meaning the kind of insurance that covers you if you make an error performing a notarial act. You can get that from NNA, you can get that from other places. Now, what a lot of signing agents, those who are doing loan signings are, oh, and by the way, that general E&O just for notarial acts You can also get at 500,000. If you go that route, I wouldn't bother with that. Only a handful require the 500, and you can always upgrade to that if you get to the point that you will need that. The other route that many notaries who are signing agents are starting to take is they're saying, look, I don't feel protected enough with just the insurance for the Notarial Act, because I'm being asked to handle documents and carry them around, to the signer. I am collecting signatures. I might be helping calculate the rescission date. I'm identifying them with the Patriot Act. So as a signing agent, there are some other responsibilities that I have, and I'd like to be protected no matter where the mistake is that I might make. And if that's the case, that is a different insurance, which typically is running at 500K or $1 million. That's what that one's referring to. And so that's a personal choice with your personal tolerance and risk levels that you can live with versus the premium, you would pay to have that insurance. 100,000 E&O just for the Notarial Acts might cost you $150 a year. The signing agent insurance, which is basically errors and liability insurance for all of it, for $1 million policy might cost you around $400 or $500 a year, depending on where you shop around. So does that help you understand the difference between the two kinds of insurances available to you?
Yes, I understood. I just wasn't sure if it was like a locked-in policy. Once you get it from the get-go, you would either have to start a new policy, a whole new policy, or if you could just make changes to your existing policy.
Well, you would get a new issue. They would cancel the one, refund any leftover value, and issue a new policy.
Okay.
That's how it would work. But it's not an issue. It's not a problem.
Okay.
As long as you go, as long as you
heard...
purchase it from the same company. And let me just clarify that.
Oh,
too.
right. Thank you, Bill.
Yep. So if you buy a $100,000 and you say you want to do $1 million, they'll basically prorate it to your new policy amount.
Exactly.
But as you're a new signing agent, don't feel stressed to do the $1 million policies or anything.
Yeah.
Signing companies only require 25,000. Title companies are going to require the 100,000.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks for being here.
No problem.
Sue Johnston from Virginia. Thanks for being here. Would you like to unmute and tell us how we can help?
Hey there. How are you?
Excellent.
Happy New Year. You know what? I actually raised my hand when Diane was talking earlier, and it was in reference to the oath. And I just wanted to say I give an oath no matter what anybody says or wants, because that's our job. And I always just imagined, because I was asked many times to do things that weren't appropriate. Right. And I always imagined that if I was ever in court, I'd never wanted to pause and say, were they there at that time? Or, did I give the oath? So it was just an easy decision for me. I had sometimes a husband who would come in and he wanted his wife's signature, who, of course, I knew her signature, notarized. And I thought, they might divorce one day. Regardless, I wouldn't do it. But you just don't want to be in that situation. And if the title company can't abide by it, then I just wouldn't want to work for them. I've worked with too many attorneys who might want you to bend the rules, and I don't do it. So
great. Thank you for offering that perspective, Sue.
Amen to that.
Yep. Thank you. Phil
You're
Shannon,
welcome.
Pleasure to see you on. I'm glad we got you in here before cutoff time. Phil Shannon. Well, Phil's probably on the phone call right now, but Phil runs about 5 minutes after TNT ends, he will start his Zoom call. You can find the link to join that Zoom call at notarycoach.com/TNT. It's the same place that you watch the replay for TNT. Scroll all the way down to the bottom, and he'll be talking about how to protect your business utilizing the resources at Legal Shield. Randy Venters, I think we have time for at least one more question. Yeah. I know you're in Washington. What's going on today? Randy Venter. Okay, there we go.
Too many windows open on my phone. I'm going to ask about a specific document, but it kind of applies to many documents in general. And the state of Washington, when it comes to filing a deed or a quitclaim deed, there's paperwork involved. with the Department of Revenue, and they have to send multiple copies to multiple offices. When I work with local title companies, that tax form is already all filled out. All the spaces are filled out. Everything's calculated. And there's one copy and the signer signs one copy, and then they can make copies and send to the other offices. When I work with a escrow office out of state, they send the whole original 8-page packet and it's all completely blank. And then I ask where signers are supposed to sign, and they cannot give me any direction. They say, just have them sign it. And I say, well, there's 2 spots. Are they the grantor or the grantee? So my question is some signers have problems signing stuff that's completely blank, which I totally get. How do you guide them, or other forms that have blank spots in it where there's something going to be filled in later because they need to look up, on a deed of trust, they need to look up the actual recording information from before? How do you handle when there's blank spaces in documents that maybe aren't going to be notarized, that just in general need to be signed?
Bill, do you want me to go first?
Yeah, that would be great. These are
Sure.
non-notarized, right? Okay.
Yeah, non-notarized documents, it's between them and the title company. And if they're willing to sign a document that has blank spaces in it, like these tax forms, then they should go ahead and sign it. It's not for me to say yes or no to that signature. And as to direction, particularly on tax forms, they might be able to contact their CPA or whoever does their taxes, if that's the kind of information they need to make a decision. Sometimes those non-notarized documents, if it's at night and there's nobody to reach out to, I've left them there and said, look, call whoever you're going to call, get this done, and scan it over, because it's not notarized. You don't need me to come back, so that the document is handled and signed before it goes back. So it might not travel back. It might travel back with me if I'm able to pick it up later in the day before I drop it myself, or they may have to just scan it back themselves. But it's not my job to worry about being their parent and making sure that every blank is filled out on non-notarized documents. They have to decide that. Bill, are you with us, or issues?
I am with you. Yep.
Okay.
Big ditto. Randy, did that help?
Yes. And then my very final question, because I'm probably gonna be last call, is so on the Washington specific form, the state charges a minimum of $10, but the recording fee is only $5. So when people sometimes when companies pre-fill out the form, they list it as the total is going to be $5, and then the person's actually going to get charged $10. I know that form is wrong and they're still signing it. Do I need to tell the signer they need to correct that? Because I personally know that form is wrong from when I went through it myself. Or
is it non-notarized, Randy?
It's non-notarized.
I'm not going to worry about that.
Okay.
That's not my business.
Okay, thank you.
All right, you got it. Let's see. I think we're going to have time for one more question. We got about 2 minutes. Dana Keller from Arizona.
Yeah.
Hey, Bill.
Hey, Dana.
And Laura, good to see you again. I haven't been on for a long time. I've got kind of 2 questions. Hopefully they're both going to be real brief. I've been bumping up a lot of my general notary work, and because I live in a retirement community, I'm getting a lot of calls from people that are doing like last minute estate planning documents.
Mm-hmm.
And quite often, the signers of these documents have something along the lines of Parkinson's. They're fully alert, but because they shake so bad,
Sure.
their signature doesn't match up with their driver's license. Their photo and everything, does. Now, I know in Arizona, we are allowed to do notarizations by mark. And so I was talking to the last couple that I was doing the signings with, where the gentleman just could not sign. Not only could he not sign his name, he couldn't sign his name on the line. He couldn't hold his hand to, sign on the signature line. So we talked about the signature of mark. My question is, have either of you had any of your customers give you any feedback as to the difficulty in using those types of documents that are signature by mark that have been notarized? Like, for instance, if they take one to a bank and they try to get into a bank account after the person has passed away?
Great question. Laura, you want to address that?
Yeah, I guess two levels. One, personally, I've done a lot of signature by mark because of skilled nursing and hospital notarizations and elderly clients. And I've never had feedback that it wasn't acceptable, as long as I followed the procedure, which in California is after they make the mark, somebody else prints what the mark represents, meaning a witness, and then the two witnesses would sign their names, comma, the word witness after their name, so we know their role underneath or somewhere near the signature line, so that the bank would know there were two independent witnesses there besides the notary. The notary cannot be one of those witnesses. And I've never had a single client come back and say that wasn't acceptable. I have had them come back to say they want their own bank form, which is a different story. It wasn't the signature. It's just that they wanted on their own power of attorney form. So that's my personal experience with that. And I do have experience with signers who are having difficulty creating their signature. And, you know, if they can create a signature, it's okay if it doesn't exactly match the driver's license anymore. You can observe there is an explanation for that, and then you document that. I don't go to a mark unless they can't create something that looks like it could be their name. It does not have to match up to the signature on the driver's license when you have an observable reason for it not to. I go to a mark when they just can't even move the pen, you know, along the page. And for all states that do accept a signature by mark for notarized documents, a fingerprint or thumbprint could act as their mark rather than having to operate a pen.
Now, would you put that, I know the thumbprint would go in the journal, but would you also put their thumbprint on the document, maybe on the signature line where they should have been signing?
That's exactly where I'd put it, because that fingerprint, and I'd use like the index finger, it's easier to reach. That fingerprint is the mark. Pretend the fingerprint is the signature. That's what it is. And that mark could be an X, but if they can't manipulate the pen to make the X, a fingerprint will do the job as well. And then follow the rest of your state's procedure for signature by mark.
All right, so Bill, the follow-up question to this is, and I need to go back to the notary handbook because it's been a couple of weeks since I looked at it, but I don't think our procedures for signature by mark are as detailed as what California's is. But do you think that maybe I should follow California's procedures just kind of as a CYA?
You know, I don't know if that's absolutely necessary, but you can absolutely document in your journal anything above and beyond that you did. The thing is, if you go too far outside of what the state mandates, if they're using that document here in Arizona and you start adding extra things in there that they're not used to seeing, that could jam things up. Laura, what do you think on that?
Yeah, I would agree, Bill. If your state doesn't require witnesses or only requires one witness, follow what your state says, because that's what you're going to have to go back to. If somebody says they're going to reject it, then you can say, look, our state says this is the procedure. This is what I followed. It's a valid signature and notarization, versus saying, well, they seem to do a better job or a more thorough job in California, so I followed them. That is not going to fly. Absolutely follow what yours are. If I was on a different laptop, I could just go in and access it for you. If you want to follow up with me later today with an email, I'll tell you what the procedure should be for you.
Okay. And then the other question that I had for you, Laura, is kind of along the same lines. So I want to expand my general notary work into hospitals and assisted living centers and things of that nature. What is the best way to market that? Because for hospitals especially, you know, I've watched your video on doing hospitalization notaries. And it's, you know, a lot of the information in hospitals is very coveted because of the Privacy Act. What is the best way to get in and market to these individuals?
So did you happen to download my free gift of an education or in-service that you could provide to the hospital director of social services or the director of nurses that would educate them about bedside notarizations in a hospital environment? And what it is, it's about 10 minutes long. It's a PowerPoint that I created that I utilized, only I unbranded everything so you could, remake it your own. You would make some changes to it to fit your state where necessary. And then what you do is that you reach out to them to offer them something of value, which is notarizations happen in your setting all the time. Wouldn't it be great when the notary who comes there has a patient who's ready to go, rather than the notary having to say, no, I can't complete this notarization because they don't have ID, because they don't have the witnesses, whatever the reason is. And then if I'm asked to come back, I may not have a second chance. So the hospital experience is just as important as customer experience and any other kind of, store anywhere. Everybody's asking you to send them a review about their services, and hospitals are no different. They want to make sure that they have the highest ratings possible. So let me help you have that great rating, because even though you're not the notary, I'm an outsider, they see you. That's where they got the notarization performed. It was in the hospital. So they have connected us, even though we're not connected. So let's make it a great experience for them the first time. And you know what? They love that. They're always looking for in-service material for their families, for their staff, and particularly the social services, because that's who typically is contacted when they say, hey, I need a notary, I want a healthcare directive, or I want a power of attorney, which are the two most common documents. So if you haven't downloaded that in-service, you can go to my website, it's free, and download it and use it for your marketing.
Okay, so I guess the question that I'm asking is, how do I identify who the people are that I need to go to? Do I call the hospital and say, who's your head nurse, or who's your social services director?
You could also do it online. That information is typically online for all those hospitals. Anybody who's at that level is likely to be listed. So you might Google the name of the hospital and see, they're not going to name all their nurses and stuff, but they're going to executive level have that, or at least the department, and then who's in charge of that department. So that's how I would do it. I personally have 4 hospitals. I got another way you could do it, which is how I did it, is when I was already there performing the notarization, I met social services. Now, it wasn't the director, it was just one of them. And I said, look, wouldn't it be great if you knew what all the rules and requirements were, so that when you talk with your patients, you speak from a position of knowledge? I can make that happen for you. Can you tell me who your boss is, so that I can try to get in here and provide a little education? So that's another way to do that.
Okay, and then for assisted living centers and Alzheimer's care facilities, I ran into somebody and she was saying the executive director or the activities director in those locations would probably be the best contacts to start with.
Yeah, activity directors. They're looking for activities. You could do a brown bag, lunch and learn. You could bring in some donuts or whatever, and then provide the information. And that could be staff, but that's more likely, well, that would be staff skilled nursing. But for assisted living, it's probably the actual residents. And so you're going to have a different kind of in-service with them. You're still educating them about the most common documents and what a notary is and why a notary is needed on certain documents. So you just tweak the presentation to meet your audience needs.
Okay, but the contact people in those facilities would be the activity director, though, to get your foot in the door?
For assisted living would be activity director. For skilled nursing, it's probably still social services director.
Social services. Okay, yeah. Perfect.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
All right, Bill, we ready to wrap it up?
Yeah. Great question. That was a really awesome strategy call that we closed out on. We're about 9 minutes past, guys. Thank you to the 230 that continued to hang out with us. Laura, thank you so much. Great to see you back on TNT. Guys, thank you so much for being here, growing yourself and your business on a Tuesday. This is going to be a great year, 2022. Happy to share it with you. You guys have a great week. We'll be back same time, same place next week.
Thank you.